Good evening, my name is Penny. So another aspect of gentle expansion tonight, and I decided to talk about an aspect of my expansion, which has been to talk about topics that are a little bit more taboo. And part of this is in my blog and also in these YouTube videos. So I wouldn't have expected that this would be something that I would be doing. But I just thought I'd explore this idea a little bit to explain in a way also my intention for the things that I do talk about, whether they are taboo or whether they are just any kind of aspect of spirituality or self-development that I feel is important. So when I do talk about things that are a little bit different, it's not because I'm trying to be provocative or make a statement or be out there or anything like that. It's more because of my awareness that there is so much in our society that is not talked about, and sometimes that's all right, but in some cases we are lacking education in many aspects of our lives, and sometimes in the things that are the most basic and the most important in a way and very universal. And I think because of this lack of discussion and lack of education in some areas, we develop a lot of shame around certain things because we feel like, well, I'm the only one experiencing this. And that's a lot of the reason that I talk about things with my friends, with other people, but also if I feel the motivation or the calling to talk about something publicly in my small way on this channel, on my blog, I will, because I realise there's a reason that I'm feeling that that's important. And I think when we have shame about things, it really holds us back in life. It's something very, it almost becomes a dark secret, and that's something that can feel very uncomfortable. It sets up this tension inside of us if we can't share something, if we can't feel that somebody else has experienced something too. So when we realise that, you know, some of these universal things that so many people experience, and we can actually tell someone and they can share that they've experienced the same thing, suddenly that particular thing doesn't feel shameful at all. It feels like a point of connection between us and something that's just normal and natural, and that, you know, that knowing that we are human and humans experience emotions and humans experience our bodies and physical issues, or pleasant or unpleasant, whatever it is, we all are experiencing similar things in our lives. So it's nothing to feel shameful or unnatural about, but we have been brought up in this society to think certain things are wrong or should be hidden, and sometimes they don't need to be. And it doesn't mean we have to go around talking to everybody about certain things, but to know that something is normal and is common in the experience is very helpful in allowing us to move on with our lives and expand in all the other ways that we want to expand. So I've sort of had a surprise lately with people saying things to me that, you know, like somebody called me the period queen the other day, and I thought, well, that's very funny. I've sort of touched on the subject of periods a little bit, which I never thought I would ever do on the internet. But I felt that although the conversation is happening with younger people, there's so much knowledge that has been lost and that I wasn't aware of when I was younger either, that is very helpful, very beautiful, and helps us to feel that something is something to be celebrated, and can help us to get to know ourselves physically and to have better self-care and embrace our femininity and womanhood. And it's not something that's a curse or something that we have to try to hope it goes away. And I think that's a very sad thing. We have the most beautiful aspect of our body, which is its ability to create life as a woman, and a period is the thing that makes that possible. And to call it a curse, oh, that's very sad, really. Like that we have grown up in a world where women have been taught to think about something like that way. And so when I talk about that, that's not to be provocative, it's to say, let's start embracing this beautiful thing and not trying to use whatever means to eradicate it or just pretend it doesn't happen. It's something to experience, and the emotions and the emotional journey and the release of emotions through the month that happens is a beautiful aspect of it too. It helps us to have this clearing and this cleansing every single month, where we don't have to keep carrying these emotions and heaviness with us. We can have a fresh start. We can feel that release of emotion, and then the new energy that comes after that, where we have this energy and enthusiasm for life. And this is a cycle that we can enjoy every single month and look forward to the next phase of, and it helps us feel this renewal. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that a lot of people haven't been taught about as well. So that's just one aspect. And yeah, I think whatever I feel that I need to talk about, I will going forward, if I feel that it's done in a spirit of compassion and genuinely wanting to spread awareness of things that matter. So as far as other topics, with my friends here, we've been delving into aspects of relationships, sex, but even just love, I think, is something that we don't talk about in our society very much. It's something we pretend, we just have a relationship. And I think the way we think of relationships often is more of a business transaction than love. Love is a different thing again, but it means having an emotion and having intimacy and being vulnerable and honest and authentic. And I think a lot of people are afraid of those things. So we have this almost co-parenting situation or a cohabiting situation that's a relationship, but it's not with the depth of intimacy that is possible for us as humans. We haven't scratched the surface of what we can experience, and I think we need to start having these conversations. We don't need to be afraid of having feelings. Having emotions is absolutely one of the most beautiful things in life, for me, for sure. It's something to share and to show people, and when you can actually share and show those emotions, you have this depth of connection that you wouldn't have experienced without it. And to me, that feels very special, to feel seen by another person. It doesn't have to be romantically, but in any other way, any relationship. It's a very special feeling, a feeling we all want to feel that our purpose, our existence matters to somebody and to other people, and that they actually notice us in this busy, massive, crazy world. You want to be seen and valued and know that you're not just one of many, many people. Every single person is here for a distinct purpose, and we're all valuable and we have so much to offer other people. So, but if we can't connect emotionally, we're putting this barrier, we're pushing intimacy away and we're pushing emotions away, and that leads to isolation and loneliness and a feeling of not really having a reason to be a part of the group and the society. So yeah, I think that's something to really spread awareness of too, this idea of vulnerability and not holding that shame and actually just talking about the truth. Who am I and what am I experiencing? And giving that permission for other people to also be vulnerable and share aspects of themselves that they might have kept to themselves. When we do it, we allow other people to feel safe to do it. And the more that happens, the more we will see other people's true selves, because we've been in a society where people are encouraged to put on masks and play roles and, fake it till you make it, or, you won't be successful if you show any sign of vulnerability, then people won't take you seriously. They won't trust you to take on roles. And the more that you meet people and spend time with people who are very comfortable in their vulnerability, the more you realise they're the strongest people you've ever met. And that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I feel. People who are not afraid of being vulnerable and truthful and showing their emotions have this strength that just, it's an incredible strength. And you can hold space for people, other people who struggle with that. That's an incredible gift and strength. And this is what we need more of in the world. So we know, what we're really dealing with and who we really are. And so we are able to connect and love and not be afraid of each other, not push each other away. So that's when we have a more peaceful world, because we start bringing people in as part of ourselves. We see the connections rather than the differences between us. And we want to trust and connect and become collaborators in our communities and in our society. And so that's a really important thing as well. I think there's so much also conversations around physical intimacy that need to be had, because this is something very, very basic to humans. However, most people are not experiencing this on the level that is possible, and I think a lot of that is a lack of education. We talk about sex a lot in our society, but not in an educated sense. We talk about it in more of it's hard to explain, but we're aware of it all the time, and yet most people are not experiencing it in a positive sense. There's just so much trauma that has happened ancestrally, and even now it's something that's used in as power play, as a physical release, not a special spiritual connection between people that it can be. And I think we don't want to bypass that. As humans, it's important that we exist as a human, in a human body, with human connections and emotions, and that we experience them and explore them as much as we would like to in a positive sense, rather than skipping over that and saying, oh, well, we don't need that. We're going to evolve past that, or we haven't even evolved through it yet. There is no way past anything except through it. And to look at ourselves and say, what's going wrong here? And I think a lot of this is that we are rejecting ourselves in every way. We talked about the shame, the emotions, and rejecting ourselves emotionally, but how about physically? So I just don't see how intimacy can be a beautiful thing if we're rejecting our own bodies and aspects of who we are, and we don't think we're worthy of that. So I think if we want to experience a high level of love, sex, intimacy, friendship, and everything in our life, we need to take every part of ourselves as part of ourselves, as in to accept every single aspect of ourselves as ours, our responsibility to love. It doesn't matter if it's perfect to anybody else's eyes. It's about making friends with every aspect of who we are. And only then will we be able to share that successfully with anybody or with the world. So I think it's important that we take every little aspect of ourselves one at a time and examine it and say, well, what is it about this part of myself that is repelling me, that I'm looking and thinking, ooh, I don't like that. I mean, that's a horrible way to treat ourselves. And I think some of it is unfamiliarity. We're not having any familiarity with, for instance, our body. Or it also could be part of our personality or our emotions, which, sort of blocking things that are true to us. And so we're not becoming familiar. And I think becoming familiar is the first step. So let's say we've never looked at our hand So we start by, oh, that's my hand. Well, it's got lines on it. Start with a familiarity until you stop seeing that, ew, I don't like that hand. You know, we start by becoming used to it until we start seeing the actual positive aspects of it. Let's appreciate this. Actually, there's something really good about this hand that I have. And then we become friends, and then we become its fiercest protector. So I'm going to defend my hand against the world. I love my hand, and I don't care what you say about my hand, because I have fully accepted my hand as mine, and it's my responsibility to love it. And I do, because of all the beautiful things it can do for me, and just because it's mine, even if it can't do anything for me, but it is mine and I choose to love it. And I've used hand, obviously we're talking about taboo topics, so the hand is an interesting example to use, but we could use any aspect of ourselves or our bodies. So if we pretend that a part of our body doesn't exist, how can we become familiar with it, and how can we accept it and love it? I just don't see how that's possible. We're feeling like, oh, well, if I can't even talk about it, I can't even look at it, so therefore we're feeling like we should be ashamed of it. I'm not saying that we should necessarily share every aspect of ourselves with the world or with other people unless they're in an intimate connection with us. However, with ourselves, some people can't look in the mirror at themselves. They've never seen themselves naked. They don't look at certain parts of their body. They don't even know what they look like. They don't even know what they're called. I mean, the more I think about this, the more it just doesn't seem natural. Like, this is strange. And I think it's a lot because of our childhood and because of reactions from adults in our environment that, oh, don't look at that, don't talk about that, don't touch that. And then it becomes something that we just sort of ignore and try not to think about or look at. And that's very strange, because it's our body, we own it, and our personality and our emotions, and they are all ours to use as we feel inspired. We're all on a different growth path, we all have different preferences and interests. However, we have a right to enjoy our bodies and our lives and our emotions as humans, and to find how we can explore them to their potential, always with the best intentions for the best good of ourselves and those around us, hopefully. That's something to always aspire to, that when we do make a choice, we think, well, is this a good choice for me? Is this something that's going to nourish me and those around me? Obviously, it's okay to try things, and I don't believe there is right or wrong as such, more just what we feel is right for us. And if we have that compassion and love within us, we're going to want to treat ourselves well and treat other people well, and consider the impact that our actions have on ourselves and others. I think to use that as a guidepost, but always we need to have that love for ourselves before we necessarily make those choices, because if we don't really love ourselves and accept ourselves, we might not think to make those choices that are in our best interest. And I think we need to love ourselves before we can love others properly. And once we do, it will be just natural for us to make decisions in our life that put the needs of others, prioritize the needs of others and ourselves. So when you already love yourself and your cup is full, it naturally overflows to others, and it doesn't even occur to you not to want to look after them and care for them and have compassion for them and forgiveness for them. It's just how it is. But if your cup is empty and you don't feel forgiven by yourself or loved by yourself, there's a certain resentment that builds, that you don't have that capacity to do that for others. But often we put it the other way around. We think we have to love others and have compassion and forgiveness for others before we've even thought about doing it for ourselves. And I think that doesn't necessarily work. It's all about fully accepting and loving and filling your cup, and then it will just become natural. to do that for others. I think the reason that doesn't happen is because we have these gaps from our childhood that we haven't, some people have not felt loved in certain ways, and so because we haven't then taken that responsibility and said, I'm going to reparent and sort this out, I'm going to reparent myself in the ways that I haven't been parented, or be your best friend in the way you haven't had a friend to be your best friend, or your lover or your partner. You have to be the person who's there for yourself to meet every need that you possibly can in the absence of that from someone else, because you're the person you can count on. It doesn't mean you can't have love from other people, but it has to start with this unconditional love for yourself, that you're going to be your best defender and you're going to fill your needs and be compassionate. I think self-compassion is the most important thing as a starting point. So if I have a thought about someone that isn't maybe what I think is nice, then the first thing I do now is say, look, what are you afraid of, Penny? What do you need? Why are you having this feeling about someone else? Is there something missing in you that you need? So it's about compassion for myself. It's not about, oh, you shouldn't have had that thought. It's about, oh, Penny, you need some attention. Something's wrong. Like you have a need that isn't being fulfilled. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having that feeling about that other person. So it's drawing my attention straight into me rather than being distracted by this thought that I had. And it's more like, what do I need and how can I fill my needs? And then naturally, I won't feel that negative thought towards anybody else because I won't have any need to, because I'm filled by myself. And I think then we attract that from other people too, when we have found it in ourselves and we know that we're always going to be there for ourselves as well. So I have veered off what it looks like the topic is a little bit, but I just let that flow and allowed that to happen. So I will continue to talk about topics that I feel inspired to talk about, and I hope you will also, in any aspect of your life, not be afraid to touch on things that other people might be uncomfortable with, because I think sometimes it's just a sort of nudge that other people might need to maybe feel comfortable to talk about certain things, but also it doesn't hurt to sometimes trigger people a little bit, because maybe that's part of our reason for being here. And that's hard for me because I don't want anyone to be uncomfortable ever. However, it might be in their best good to be a little bit uncomfortable. And I mean, it's happened to me many times in my life that someone will say something that will trigger me, and later on I might realize that actually they were right, or I might realize they're right straight away because that's why I was triggered. So we're triggered because something in ourselves knows that we already had that thought about ourselves, and there's something that we need to look at. And it's just information, and we should be, in a way, appreciative of that trigger that reminds us that there's something that we need to look at and release or heal so that we can expand and move forward in our lives. So it's actually a gift when that happens. So I'm trying to shift my thought that it's okay if I make people a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, because maybe that's part of my purpose and vice versa, and that perhaps because of that little discomfort that I might have created, maybe that will allow them to expand. And I've realized that love, unconditional love, the love that Source or God has, is a love that is beyond, it's not people pleasing, is it? The love that Source or God, the unconditional love energy, is something that will put our highest needs first. So our need for growth and expansion and evolution is higher than our feelings in the moment. So when we allow sometimes people to go on their own path or learn their lessons or have a little bit of a trigger or discomfort, sometimes we're doing what is best for them. Because when we hold people back because of our fear or our discomfort, we're not doing them a service at all. And that's a bit of a mindset shift. So we don't want to hurt people purposely or push them in some direction. But if we accidentally, through being our authentic self, so I'm saying if I am talking about a topic because I feel it's important, I'm not doing it with the intention of hurting anybody or making anyone uncomfortable. But if that does happen because somebody engages with your content or the discussion you're having and they feel discomfort, that might actually be a really helpful thing in their life that comes to be a real gift for them. So it's okay to feel comfortable with just being yourself and allowing the outcome to unfold around you, and allowing those, whatever is going to happen. I think when we try to control that too much, we might really be standing in the way of growth for ourselves and others as well. So it's very empowering to be authentic and truthful and to talk about things that you feel are important in ways that are respectful and can help others as well. So I'd just like to encourage you not to be afraid of that, and just always think about your intentions and what are your real intentions with this. What is this giving me and what am I giving out, and is it a balance, and is it for the intention of the good of humanity, I like to say, because from a broader perspective, are we working for the good of others or just for our own gratification? It's got to be the good of ourselves and others in a positive way, not just for attention or to shock people. We're not trying to shock. We're trying to help others expand and grow, as well as help ourselves expand and grow. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're motivated for. So I will end it here and talk to you